The king whose body turned him into a monster. Imagine being the most athletic man in Europe. 6'2", a champion jouster, a wrestler who could throw grown men twice his size. Women want to marry you. Kings want to be you. And then imagine that 20 years later, that same man can't walk without being carried, can't stand without a machine to lower him onto a horse, and has just signed the execution order for his 5th wife, a teenager. That is Henry VIII. And the strange part isn't that he changed. Everyone changes. It's that centuries later, in a completely different country, almost the exact same transformation happens to another king. Except that time, scientists dug up the body and proved it. So here's what this video is actually about. Most people, if they know Henry VIII at all, know him as the king with 6 wives who broke away from the Pope. What most people don't know is what was actually happening to his body behind the scenes. A wound that never closed, a fall that may have rewired his brain, and a decade of pain so bad his own courtiers invented polite language just to avoid mentioning the smell. And I'll save the second half of this story for the end, because once you hear what forensic scientists found in another king's bones, maybe his body made him do it, stops being a theory and becomes something you can't unsee. Let's start with who Henry actually was, because the tyrant everyone pictures isn't how this story begins. In his 20s, Henry was genuinely one of the most physically gifted rulers in Europe. He jousted constantly, played tennis, hunted for hours, and in 1520, he was confident enough in his own strength to challenge King Francis I of France to a wrestling match at a summit meant to celebrate peace between their nations. He lost. It's a detail that rarely makes it into the popular story, but it tells you everything about who this man was before the crown reshaped him. Competitive, physical, and not yet broken by his own body. And here's the thing people forget. Henry was never even supposed to be king. His older brother Arthur was the heir, groomed for the throne from birth, already married to a Spanish princess named Catherine of Aragon. Henry was the spare, being prepared for a life in the church. Then Arthur died suddenly at 15, and everything shifted onto a teenager who hadn't been raised for it, including eventually his brother's widow. So how does a champion athlete turn into the bloated, paranoid king from the paintings? The answer starts with an accident historians didn't take seriously enough until recently. In January 1536, Henry was thrown from his horse during a joust and was unconscious for 2 hours. 2 hours. In an era with no imaging, no way to check for internal bleeding or brain trauma, a king can simply wake up and go back to ruling, and nobody around him has the tools to know what actually happened inside his skull. Some historians now believe this fall caused a traumatic brain injury, the kind linked in modern medicine to mood swings, memory problems, and impulsive decision-making. The same month, Catherine of Aragon died. 4 months later, Anne Boleyn was executed. The timeline lines up in a way that's hard to ignore. But the accident wasn't the only thing breaking him down. Around the same period, Henry developed a leg wound, likely from an earlier jousting injury, that never properly healed. It became chronically infected, oozing for years, and by most accounts it smelled bad enough that courtiers developed careful, indirect ways of speaking around it, without ever mentioning it directly to the king's face. His waist, measured from surviving suits of armor, expanded to over 54 inches. Mobility collapsed so severely that mechanical devices had to be built just to lift him onto a horse. And chronic, untreated infection like this doesn't just hurt the body, Modern medicine increasingly links it to exactly the kind of cognitive fog, irritability, and impaired judgment that defined Henry's final decade on the throne. Put those two things together, a possible brain injury and a decade of chronic infection, and you get a king whose worst, most paranoid, most violent decisions cluster almost perfectly around the years his body was falling apart the fastest. It's not an excuse, but it's a piece of the story the paintings never show you. Here's the part I promised you, the part that turns maybe into something scientists have actually proven. Centuries later, and half a continent away, a Russian Tsar goes through an eerily similar transformation. Except this time, historians didn't have to guess. In the 1960s, Soviet scientists exhumed the remains of Ivan the Terrible and ran forensic tests on his bones. What they found was startling: mercury levels far above what a body should naturally contain. Ivan, historians now believe, was likely being treated for chronic illness with mercury-based medicine for years, slowly poisoning himself while ruling one of the most volatile reigns in Russian history. A reign defined, like Henry's, by escalating paranoia, sudden executions, and violence against his own inner circle, including, in a fit of rage, his own son. Put the two kings side by side, and the point sharpens instead of repeating itself. Henry shows you it's plausible that a body breaking down in secret can quietly rewrite a king's personality and decisions. Ivan shows you it's not just plausible, it's provable, because scientists literally found the poison in his bones centuries later. So which is the real story? A king whose body may have turned on his mind, or a king whose slow poisoning was written into his skeleton for scientists to find 400 years later? Maybe it's both. Maybe the real pattern here is that history keeps calling it character, when it was actually chemistry. If you want to see what happened when I dug into the 6 wives Henry's decline actually cost, there's a video right here that gets into it. Go watch that next, and if you're not subscribed yet, hit the button so you don't miss what's coming. And let me know in the comments, does knowing this change how you see Henry VIII? Or does a king still have to answer for what he did, body or not? I'll be reading them.